Why Macron calls Putin, Trump's special envoy says it's Russia that is delaying peace talks, and how US Senator Graham's Russia sanctions bill to pass in watered-down form. We'll talk about this with political analyst, European Leadership Network UK member, Alexandra Filippenko. Alexandra, glad to see you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Alexandra, French President Emmanuel Macron spoke on the phone with dictator Vladimir Putin for over 2 hours, including about the Russian-Ukrainian war. The Kremlin initially reported that the conversation, and the Yellow Palace later confirmed it. The first issue mentioned in the statements of both countries is the conflict between Iran and Israel, and the second is the war between Russia and Ukraine. How do you think? What motivated President Macron to initiate or agree to a direct conversation with terrorist Vladimir Putin at this specific moment in the war? In your opinion, was Macron acting independently, or was the call coordinated with maybe European or NATO partners?
For now, what we know is that this call was initiated by the French side, and this is quite important. And Emmanuel Macron, for some time now, wanted to be seen as the leader of Europe. And we know that that even caused Giorgia Meloni, the Prime Minister of Italy, to feel uncomfortable because she saw Emmanuel Macron as the one who is actually now the main driving force in Europe, while, of course, she wants Rome, as she many times have said, she wants Rome to be the capital of Europe. And she even said that Brussels doesn't need to be the capital of Europe. Why the European Commission and the European Union is in Brussels? They all should be in Rome. So now this conversation between Macron and Putin, initiated by the French side, most probably it was part of some kind of a push from European partners and European countries, although we know that no requests for phone conversations or for any meetings from other European countries were sent to Moscow. And so for now, this is the only conversation that we know of, or anything that there's nothing else planned. And of course, their meeting is not planned. It was just a one-time thing, just a conversation. I would go as far as to say that this might be also kind of a push from the US, from the Americans, from Marco Rubio, maybe, not President Trump. President Trump is too busy with a big, beautiful bill right now and all that's happening in Congress these days. But as we've already heard, that most probably those sanctions, that Sanctioning Russia Act by Lindsey Graham, most probably will go to the Senate floor on July 9th. After the a few days off surrounding July 4th, the Independence Day. So maybe this is the beginning of the process, the beginning of that push from the European counterparts of the United States. As we know, Donald Trump was very happy with the NATO summit, although he wasn't that happy on G7. The G7 that happened in Canada, he was not that satisfied. And as we know, as far as we know, he was mainly not satisfied with Emmanuel Macron. And he was not satisfied with the way Macron framed some conversations surrounding Israel and Iran, and also how Macron commented on Trump leaving the G7. So maybe this is a way of Macron trying to fall back into Trump's closer circle, let's put it this way. And this might be coordinated with the United States because this kind of coincides with initiatives from the United States. So this call that was initiated by the French side might be inspired by the United States and maybe not President Trump himself, but at least maybe Keith Kellogg, maybe Steve Witkoff, or Marco Rubio, most probably, because right now, Donald Trump, the American side, really wishes to see more initiative from Europeans. This is the biggest desire of Washington and of the White House in general, just to have Europeans take responsibility for the war in Ukraine, for Russia's war with Ukraine. They want more initiative from the European side, and they're pushing, and they said about it many times. So this, I would go as far as to say that it was not only coordinated with the other European countries, or at least the coalition of the willing, plus Italy, of course, I started with saying that Giorgia Meloni is not too happy with Macron being that active, but also I suppose it might have been also discussed with the United States and coordinated with the United States.
Kit Kellogg, yes, President Donald Trump's special envoy for Ukraine has said that it is Russia, not the United States or Ukraine, that is dragging its feet in the search for a peaceful settlement to the full-scale war it started. Kellogg quoted Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov, who had said that the further course of peace talks depended on the position of Ukraine and the United States. He said that Peskov's recent comments on the state of negotiations are Orwellian. Russian claims that it is the US and Ukraine stolen peace talks are unfounded. How does Kit Kellogg's characterization of Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov's comments as Orwellian reflect on Russia's narrative strategy regarding the peace talks?
Well, of course, we know, following Russian news and following everything that's happening, we know that Dmitry Peskov is only reflecting what Putin wants him to reflect. And right now, they want to, they want everyone, all countries in Europe and around the world, and mainly, of course, Washington, to see Russia as being on the strong side right now. Russia being strong, Russia winning. That's all. That's the narrative they're trying to push, that Russia is winning, Russia is winning. Although, as many American politicians have said, just let's put emotions aside. Let's sit down and let's look what is actually happening. Yes, the situation is difficult, the situation is dire, but if we compare it to what's been happening in, for example, 2023, of course, right now, Russian forces are pushed way back. And let's see how much territory they managed to gain. Yes, they are gaining, but they're gaining so little. How much did they manage to gain throughout the year, for example? So let's put emotions aside. That's the main thing. And that's what Kit Kellogg is also trying to promote, let's say, putting emotions aside. Yes, everything that we are hearing from Moscow is definitely power moves, let's say, but Kit Kellogg is trying to get everyone to come down and really to see the situation as it is. So this is the main goal, the main objective of the special envoy right now, to come to negotiation table, because as we've heard, yes, Russia is so ready for the third round of negotiations. Of course, this is also a delay tactic by Putin, because he doesn't want to be subject to sanctions. Those sanctions, as we all know, are they do not they will, if they are actually signed by President Trump, they will not come into full force immediately. They will come into full force if Russia is not acting in good faith. If Russia is not moving towards peace, because as the language of that proposed bill sanctioning Russia Act is, we know that the sanctions begin only when Russia is not acting and not moving towards negotiations, or at least a ceasefire. So right now, Putin wants everyone to think that he is moving towards that. And Kit Kellogg is asking everyone to cool down and to look at the facts. Not at what Kremlin is saying, but the facts. And the facts are that Russia is not stopping. Russia is continuing the assault. Russia is shooting rockets at peaceful Ukrainians all the time. And it's getting worse. It's getting worse by the day. So this is what he's trying to note. This is what he's trying to put into the light, let's say. So for Kit Kellogg, of course, commenting of what is coming from the Kremlin is extremely important, because he needs to really get Donald Trump to see the real situation, not the emotions that Kremlin is trying to sell to everyone because they are selling the emotion of winning, that Russia is winning, that what they are trying to sell, and that they are so ready for any kind of negotiation. So this is why Keith Kellogg is now very concentrated on commenting of what's coming from the Kremlin.
Alexandra, you mentioned sanctions, and we saw that U.S. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has confirmed that the sanctions bill he introduced will not impose mandatory measures against Russia. The final decision will rest with the U.S. president, as you said. In an interview with ABC News, Graham said there had been a big breakthrough while playing golf. President Trump had told him for the first time that it's time to move your bill. After the July break, which ends on the 6th of July, we are going to pass the bill, he stated. For now, what are the potential implications of leaving the final decision on sanctions enforcement against Russia solely to the discretion of the US president?
Well, right now, most probably they will vote on the bill as it is planned on July 9th, most probably after that break. They will vote first on the Senate floor and then in the House of Representatives. So maybe it will come into effect in the next 2 weeks, maybe, if everything goes according to plan. But they want this act, they want the Sanctioning Russia Act to be a possibility, because Donald Trump many times have said that he doesn't want to stop he doesn't want to go from talking to Russia, go from talking to Moscow to not communicating at all, to having no conversations, no talks, no possibility of, let's say, stepping a little bit backwards or stepping two steps forward with pushing Russia to go to negotiation table, to get to ceasefire agreement, actually. So he wants to have that leverage. He wants to have that leverage and that possibility to act. He wants to have that possibility to act, not as, for example, the new sanctions, how should they work? What should that be? Let's talk about it. Let's think about it. No, to have a possibility to act this second, to have the possibility to act this minute, to just say go and the sanctions will be in effect. Or maybe to have the possibility to, let's say, choose which countries to tariff, because the idea is a 500% tariff on all products coming from the countries that are buying Russian resources. And as we've all heard, and I think it was widely discussed, and first Deutsche Welle reported it, and then other media outlets reported it, that Germany will pay 2 billion euro to Russia in the next year for Russian resources, for Russian gas. 2 billion euro a year. This is an unbelievable sum, of course, and definitely talking about this, let's say, possibility not to buy Russian resources. Right now, it is not that realistic. So maybe Donald Trump will choose whom to tariff. And also, there is new information about this bill. We still haven't seen the whole of it. We still haven't seen the new text, because Mr. Graham has said that during that golf not tournament, but that game of golf, they discussed the language of the bill. And most probably there we will see, or at least that's how Lindsey Graham talked about it on ABC during his interview. He said that those countries that are buying Russian resources and not helping Ukraine. So, of course, we understand Germany is helping Ukraine. Definitely, Germany is very helpful to Ukraine. It could, maybe, we could argue, maybe it could do more and, for example, not buying that gas for $2 billion, for 2 billion euro, excuse me. But anyways, the countries that are buying Russian resources and not helping Ukraine, these are the ones who are going to be tariffed. So probably the language of the bill will allow Donald Trump not only to have the leverage talking to Putin, but also to other countries, talking to European partners, talking to China, talking to India, those primary buying Russian natural resources. So this is a possibility, of course, that the language will change, and this bill would actually not be just blatantly, let's say, used the second it is passed, but it is a possibility in the hands of the President Trump. And as we've been seeing for past few weeks, President Trump is really irritated with Vladimir Putin because throughout his presidential campaign, President Trump has been saying that, oh, of course, Putin will do this for me, only for me. He will definitely sign a ceasefire just because we have such a good relationship with him. And that is not happening. And Russia is bombarding Ukraine, bombarding every day, worse and worse. From day to day, we are seeing even more attacks on Ukrainian cities. And for Trump, this is also the least to say it is unpleasant, the least to say he sees himself as being laughed at from Russia, from Moscow, because this is a powerful blow to that relationship, kind of relationship, but that's pretend relation. It's not real that he had apparently, as he said, apparently had with Putin. This is not real. And everyone is seeing how bad it is for President Trump. And even when, in the height of the 12-day war, Israel with Iran, Putin asked President Trump and said that he can also help negotiate peace in the Middle East. That's what President Trump said. He said, no, first take care of what's going on in Europe. First, help me, as President Trump put it, help me end the war in Ukraine. Don't go into Middle East. I don't need you anywhere. I don't need to talk to you. I don't need any of your help. First, end this war and the war in Ukraine. So we are seeing this irritation. We've been seeing this irritation also with some Russian officials, like former President Medvedev, how Donald Trump really laughed at him in his Truth Social post. So this is actually, this bill is going to be leveraged in President Trump's hands. And President Trump will most probably use it. But he will be able, since the language of the bill will change, he will be able to use it, choosing which countries to tariff, choosing how to talk to Putin. So this bill is, of course, not as sweeping as we would expect, not as sweeping as we would like to see it, of course, to help Ukraine way more. But this will be a possibility for President Trump to have the leverage. And now, when the big, beautiful bill most probably will pass, and we'll see how it goes in the House of Representatives, now Trump will move to Ukraine. Trump will move his attention to Ukraine and to Europe in general. And that call of Macron is, coming back to the beginning, most probably is somehow connected to that.
Alexandra, and the last question. The United States is halting some weapons shipments to Ukraine amid its war with Russia. The White House confirmed Tuesday. How does the administration justify this move amid ongoing military escalation in Ukraine and increased Russian aggression?
What we've been seeing from the United States is them commenting on this political report that right now there are not enough weapons for the United States. Not enough weapons because the United States are afraid that something will happen in the Middle East. As we've seen before, when Pete Hegseth really removed some of the weapons that were supposed to be shipped to Ukraine, he moved them to the Middle East. And right now the situation is the same. They are saying that they don't have enough weapons right now, and that is why they're acting this way. So it has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with, I don't know, they view Ukraine in a different light. No, nothing at all like that, nothing at all. It only has to do with the American lack of ammunition, American lack of weapons as they see it, because they see that they don't have enough, especially after that operation with Iran, actually, this Midnight Hammer operation. So now they will produce more, and then they will send the promised weapons to Ukraine. So it has nothing to do with any other way. Maybe they view Ukraine or anything, or a war in Ukraine, but it has everything to do with the fear of Pentagon that there is not enough weapons for Americans in the Middle East, first of all.
Alexandra, thank you so much for this conversation. Today we were joined by Alexandra Filippenko, political analyst and member of the European Leadership Network UK. Alexandra, thank you for being with us and for your valuable thoughts. To our audience, thank you for staying with us, and see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. See you.